Hello, this is Elizabeth, and I'm here with the final voyage of Sinbad the sailor. After my sixth voyage brought me a fine profit, I returned to my old life of enjoyment and fun. I continued this way for some time until I began to long once again to sail the seas, visit foreign countries, and experience new things. So I packed up my merchandise and found a ship ready for sea. I set sail with a company of merchants, made friends, and travelled in health and safety with a fair wind in our sails. Eventually, we came to a city called Madinatolsin, where we did good business. But after we sailed on, a violent headwind blew up, and rain started to drench our ship. We covered everything and prayed to the Almighty Allah to save us. When the storm passed, the captain climbed the mast. He looked around and then began beating his own forehead with his fist. We cried up to him, "Captain, what is the matter?" He replied, "Say goodbye to one another and recite the prayer for those who are about to die. The wind has driven us to the furthest corner of the world." He climbed down, opened his sea chest, and took out a book. With tears in his eyes, he told us, "This book describes exactly where we have come to. It is a place from which there is no escape. It is called the Sea of the King, for here Solomon is buried beneath the waves. Great sea serpents live here, so massive they can eat a ship whole." On hearing this, we were filled with dread. Before long, we heard a terrible roar, and a huge fish, as tall as a mountain, came up to us. Then a second, even more monstrous fish reared its head. Finally, a third fish appeared, the biggest of all, and the three circled our ship. The third one opened its mouth with jaws wider than the gate of a city. We besieged the Almighty for help, when suddenly a violent squall hit the ship, which rose up out of the water and landed on a reef. It broke into pieces, and everyone was plunged into the sea. I rode on a plank, my legs astride it like a horse, thrown up and down by the winds and waters. Then I cried out to myself, "O Sinbad, you have not learned the lessons of your sufferings. You have sworn to give up sea travel, but you lied, and now you deserve this. All this is decreed by Allah to turn me from my greed of gain." I soon returned to my senses and said, "In truth, this time I most sincerely repent of my lust for gain and venture. Never again shall I travel, not even in my thoughts and dreams." I continued like this for 2 days, until at last I landed on an island where I ate fruit and drank fresh water. And here I said to myself, "He who ties the knot of fate can untie it equally well." I walked about until I found a great river. As I had done once before, I tied together some logs and made myself a raft. For several days I lay on my boat, until I was as weak as a chicken. I passed through a valley and heard the sound of a great waterfall. I feared I would be smashed to pieces on the rapids. I cried, "There is no majesty and there is no might save in Allah, the glorious, the great." I was in such despair that I did not notice a fisherman cast his net. He caught me in it and hauled me onto the bank. I found myself looking up at a crowd of people. An elderly, richly dressed gentleman helped me to my feet and led me to the city. He bought me fine clothes, paid for me to visit the steam baths, and invited me to his house, setting rich food before me. I stayed in his home for 3 days, restoring my health and mind. On the 4th day, my host came to me and said, "Will you come to the market with me and sell your goods?" I was puzzled, as I had lost all my goods in the shipwreck. But we went together to the market, and there I found his servants had brought my raft and put it up for sale. A man offered 100 silver pieces, but my host offered 150. He pressed me to accept his offer, which I did most gratefully. When we returned home, he said to me, "I am a very old man and have no son, but I have a daughter who is young and ready to marry. Would you do me the honor of taking her to be your wife?" I was silent, but he continued to press me, and so at last I accepted. I was married to his daughter. I found her perfect in beauty and character, and we lived happily together for some years until her father passed away. After I became head of the household, I discovered the city folk had a secret. Once a month, they changed into birds. I asked a friend, "Next time this happens, carry me upon your back so that I too may know what it feels like to fly." He reluctantly agreed. I climbed on his back, and he took me so high that I heard the angels glorifying God in the heavens. I was thrilled and called out, "Praise be to Allah in His perfection." No sooner had I said this than a great fire came from heaven. My carrier cursed my name and dropped me on a mountain top. Here I met 2 young men carrying rods of gold. They gave me a rod and we walked together. We heard a man cry, "Save me," and saw a great serpent had half swallowed him. I rushed down and beat the serpent's head with my golden rod until it released its victim and fled. We continued on until we found a group of men. One of them agreed to carry me back to the city. My wife met me, rejoicing in my safety. She told me to beware of the bird folk, for they were related to devils and did not know how to mention the name of Allah. I did not wish to remain any longer in that city. We sold all our property and boarded a ship back to Basra, and from there traveled safely to Baghdad. My friends and family welcomed me with great joy, for I had been away for 27 years. I forswore travel before Allah the Most High, and thanked the Lord for bringing me back to my family and home. Sinbad the sailor spoke to Sinbad the porter and said, "So now you have heard what dangers and hardships I went through to become a man of wealth." "Allah bless you, my lord," replied the porter. "Pardon me for my words that wronged you," and the 2 Sinbads remained friends for the rest of their days. And that was the story of the final voyage of Sinbad. For now, from me, Elizabeth, by